Good afternoon, good evening, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I am Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. Today we have with us one of our incredible and iconic media persons in the person of Louise Dente. And she has a show called Cultural Caravans and has created films and documentaries. Louise, if you would just say hello to our audience and just share a bit about yourself, your programming. And we are going to have the opportunity to look at a clip from your latest documentary, a trailer. But if you could share who you are, whose you are, and a little bit about Cultural Caravan. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I want to first of all thank you very much, Terri, for inviting me on, and it's a pleasure and an honor. And certainly, we appreciate the work that you do with the Harlem community. And I'm so excited because, I was born in Harlem, so Harlem is
Oh,
part of my
wow.
history. My first start in life, and been coming back and forth for over the years. So that's being one. And then two, being able to share this story. I'm also a native New Yorker and someone who's been educated. Everything started in New York. So New York is very key to my upbringing and part of that essential story. So long story short, as I said, born and bred in New York. I also had this interest in teaching and sharing knowledge from
Okay.
childhood. So that was led me to go into education as an educator for over 35 years. And then in the same time, I also had interest in the arts. And in addition to through my teaching, I always used to infuse the arts in there. So whether it be theater or whatever. And so I had started with a program called Joy Performing Workshop, and that was something inspired by my collaboration. Actually, as a college student, I had the honor of working with the great Barbara Antia of the National Black Theater. So she and just being inspired by the work that she and her team did and still continue to do through her wonderful daughter, I had an opportunity to learn and to grow and to continue my growth as an artist, as a human being. So again, as I said, I went into education, still staying connected with the arts. I started a program for youth called the Joy Performing Workshop, as I said, and that was something that was really rewarding because it enabled me to work with even the youth that I taught in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and certainly that was a great experience. It helped the theater, helped them to really get an opportunity to express themselves in a positive way. So starting there, and then later on having an opportunity to go into broadcast,
Okay.
starting with Manhattan Neighborhood Network, where I was a producer there. Then I went on to Queens Public Community Access TV, Brooklyn Community Access TV. And then in 2012, I had an opportunity to go into lease time production, which was through the NYWNYE, where I still continue.
Okay.
hmm So
So
that's
how
part of
many
that journey.
that's quite a journey. And Harlem Network News is a media platform. We started at the onset of COVID, and we're still here. And a part of why we started was at that time, Black folks were walking around Harlem saying, "I'm Black, I can't get it."
Mhm.
And we realized that this really had a lot to do with media and us not seeing ourselves, not being a part, and also the urgency for us to really tell our own stories, so we make sure that everything is correct and we can engage the community, and therefore have the community really take a stand and be active
Mhm.
citizens. So very
Mhm.
critical. And I love interviewing, because every time I interview someone, and I certainly have interviewed Louise Dente of Cultural Caravan uh, before, but I just learned that she was born in Harlem, and I learned that she was a part of the National Black Theater. So that's amazing piece of information, and we are grateful for that. But if you could just share a little bit about Cultural Caravan and what the essence of that show is.
Mhm.
What's the meaning? Yeah,
So Cultural Caravan TV, basically in alignment with the work of the great and noble Gil Noble. As many of you know, Gil Noble was a illustrious, I call him educator as well as journalist, who gave
absolutely.
back, who had some of the most dynamic minds in the world on every Sunday. So I, like many, came up from with that information and being very inspired. And I had a
Mhm.
chance to. I knew Gil Noble, and I basically. As I went on, and I realized that there was nothing on TV besides Gil Noble's show and other shows prior to, such as Soul and others. I realized that we needed to have a presence on media. That is one thing to criticize what we don't see in media, but it's another thing to be part of the solution. So that's really
Yes.
what inspired me to decide to start Cultural Caravan in 2007. Okay,
Wow.
so I started
What a
Cultural
journey.
Caravan.
What a journey.
So basically, we started with local community action groups. I was actually based at the Great African Poetry Theater in Queens, New York, with the great ancestor John Watusi Branch,
Wow.
and he had a lot of different people come, including Gil Noble, to his institution in Queens, New York. So I worked there with my program. So I continued with, again, doing programming, having some of my youth participants on there as well as my adult theater group participate. And we did that for several years, again, through the community access. So Cultural Caravan really is a celebration of African American history, arts, and concerns. So every episode focuses on something from our experience as people of African ancestry. That's number one. So we've had a whole lineup of varied people. And one of the things that we do, because we live in a New York is a very diverse city. We really look at
Absolutely.
the African experience, not just in America, but throughout the world. African in the Caribbean, in South America, on continental Africa, and all over the world. So we touch upon those experiences, and we've had people from various parts of our environment on the show. We did something several years ago looking at the great Calypso Rose, and we had Randy Weston, was a phenomenal musician. We've had a whole lot of. I started my show actually with something with the great. She's still with us, goodness, Diane Reeves, who's someone who I
Wow.
admired,
Okay.
jazz.
Okay.
So
I love it.
basically, yes. So I'm sorry, you were saying that.
No, I'm sending accolades.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
she'll, I mainly, these were people who I respected and loved myself. So I was able to connect with them through the arts. And it's just been so many different people, from Ruby D and Ossie Davis, from varied people throughout, that have been on the show. I think for me, one of the special moments was, I was contacted by Ruby D's grandson. And at the time, he
Okay.
was trying to do a program honoring his illustrious grandparents. So he came to my show to want to talk about it, and we had him on, and he talked about it with his partner. And and that went out well. And then they were doing a 90th birthday celebration for Ruby D. So they invited me to tape it. I was one of the few art organizations to actually could tape that, and there was just so many artists there. You can imagine. And it was actually at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. So that was a really great time, and just a number of things. And then of course being able to do a profile on my a person I admire, Dr. Barbara Antier. That was a really great opportunity. So over the years, lots of people that inspired me and told me to continue, continue what I was doing, anytime that I felt, but I've had that nudging from my elders and my ancestors to continue. So that's why we do, and we continue. Right now, we're in our 17th season. And we,
Amazing.
and certainly this arts festival is really a way of celebrating and continuing that journey of celebrating African experience in the arts and the society.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and I am here with our Honorable Louise Dente of the Cultural Caravan Program, and they're in their 17th season. I mean, I think it's very amazing that you had the forethought and the courage to start your show back in 2007. And it's very significant because we can see now what has really happened to Black media, to African-centered media. We don't have the presence that we had even back at that time. So do you want to reflect on that and speak about how important it is, and what your impact is now? How is the audience responding? Because we do know that times have definitely changed, in our young people and in like I won't say dumbing down of our culture, but there's something going on. So if you
Exactly.
could just speak a little bit about that,
hmm
and then we'll get on to the events you have coming up and the films that you've made. Thank you,
Well,
Louise.
thank you. Well,
Mhm.
Terry, I appreciate what you said. If I understand you correctly, it is so important that you and I and all of us continue to be consistent about our culture, persistent about it, despite the fact that there may be other forces out there that are only amplifying the most challenged aspects of our society. We, I think, have to keep that standard. I mean, I believe that standard is very key. Regardless of whatever is
Mhm.
happening or not happening, we need to show that there's no one dialogue about the African American experience. Some people think that there's a very popular entertainment network, okay, that they
Mhm.
represent African American culture, which, as far as I'm concerned, they don't. There
Okay,
are
thank you.
certain things. I mean, like you and I know, African people of African ancestry are very diverse. We have different ways of
Absolutely,
thinking,
absolutely.
different
Africa
ways.
is a continent. It is not a country.
Exactly. And our people are also very diverse in our thinking. I mean, and so I understand. My thing is there's not as much representation about those in our community that are culture centered, that are focused and aware. That is not there. There's more in the quote unquote urban world type of thing. And so
Mhm.
there's a need for us, myself, yourself, and others, to continue to ensure that people see the diverse kaleidoscope of consciousness and people in our community. So that's why I do what I do. You're doing what you're doing. That if we have people of consciousness continue to speak about our culture, it's important for our people. I mean, it's the people who stop me and when I go out into the society and say, Louise, I enjoy what you're doing. Keep on doing it. Okay,
Mhm.
people who I respect, or people who I've never met in some cases. and one time I never forget, my sibling had said she went to a Chinese, not Chinese, but an Asian nail salon, and they
Uh-huh.
had the show on, and she was
Okay.
shocked
I love it.
at that time. Wow, they had the show on, and I said, well, the interesting thing is, I did a show on African American, the similarities and differences of African American and Asian culture. I did about
Mhm.
a few segments, and people watch things, people thumb through their, and they see, and who's to say they didn't see that? People, I've also been invited to do a presentations with that community as a result. So opening the door, showing the similarities and as well as the differences amongst other communities in addition to ourselves is so critical. And I think just being consistent, being persistent in that, not changing, not doing
Yes.
that's really for me so important. So I feel that this is important. This is something for our ancestors. I'll yet to be born, and this is relevant. So that's what encouraged me, inspires me to continue and know that this
Mhm.
is the way that we need to do things.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Louise Dante, our guest from Cultural Caravan, and I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and I think the essence of it is that knowledge is power, and we do know that a lot of our history has been lost. Uh, we're still discovering many things. Black Wall Street is now something that is talked about. Juneteenth has become a national holiday. Really, what the Holocaust has been from coming across the water for African people. The fact that as many enslaved people were dropped off in South America as in North America, if not more. So there are a lot of factoids that are yet to come to the light. So it's very important. I know years ago in journalism school, I read a book by Marshall McLuhan, Is the Media the Message or the Message the Media? And I think that that is very strong and very befitting today because people believe and understand what they see and hear. So I consider Harlem Network News and the work that Louise Dente is doing as an essential service. We've got to change the narrative, very, very critical. And even in some of our instances with music, though it's our young people doing the music, they're not the ones that are guiding the narrative. It's moneymakers. So we've got to look at that and we've got to try to control the narrative and educate the people. Once again, knowledge is power. So, Louise, if you would just share a little bit about your first film, and
Mhm.
then we're going to try to, and how migrated from doing your show to making a film. If
Okay,
you would
thank
share a
you.
little bit about your first film and
Okay.
how it's been moving around the success,
Mhm.
and then we're going to get to what you have coming up on the weekend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as you know, we in I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. In 2018, I
Okay.
had the honor of interviewing the great, illustrious Queen Black Rose. She's a
Okay.
cultural icon. She's one of the original, if not grandessa models. And during that interview, she mentioned that there was going to be a reunion of the grandessa models. So I was, wow, I said, there's something. So I recall back when I was a child, my parents, again, living in Harlem, took me to the different showcases of the
Okay.
grandessa models,
Wow.
and even as a baby, being there, being in that presence of seeing these beautiful women parade, and in the Rockland Ballroom and so forth, made an impression. Okay, long story short, I asked whether I could go and take that experience, and I did. And then I decided it was important to really tell this story. A lot of the elders were aging, they were moving on, transitioning.
Mhm.
So I had the approval of, I went to Cinque Brath, the executive of the Lambe Brath Foundation, the
Yes.
late Bob Gums, and they
Mhm.
both agreed this was something they wanted to do and participate in, and so forth. So that's what really began. So that was 2 years. We were by 2022, we were able to do a premiere in Harlem at the world famous Dwyer Cultural Center.
Okay,
And
I love it.
that was really a wonderful experience of sharing that important work and impressions. And the work went on to win 9 awards, both national as well as international awards recognition films. So we were very honored by that. Then that movie being a jazz pioneers of the Black is Beautiful movement, and it still does. We've done several out of state presentations in Washington D.C., uh, Virginia. We recently this spring, we went to Gary, Indiana, as well as Chicago to do screenings. So been well received, and we're very happy to be able to do that because we know that our people, the Black is Beautiful movement, impacted all of us worldwide, and certainly to give other people a chance to see the film. So that's that one, and it's still being received and so forth. So what happened, very short, the film that is going to be screened this coming um, Friday,
Right,
June
June 21st,
21st,
correct.
is
Yes.
part of a 2-day arts festival that the Cultural Caravan is sponsoring in Harlem at the
Okay.
Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Harlem State Office Building. And basically, day one being the 21st, we are having something in the evening at 5:30. We are having our first screening. Now, the interesting thing, prior to the screening, we're going to
Mhm.
be giving 2 proclamations out to 2
Mhm.
distinguished residents of Harlem
Okay.
or Manhattan. One
Love it.
being Dr. William Sorrell, Professor Emeritus of
Okay.
African and African Studies from Lehman College. He's been a resident scholar on our show over the years, as well as someone who's given of his time and his resources to ensure that the
Mhm.
show continues. So we're giving, he is receiving a proclamation from the mayor's office. In addition, another distinguished elder by the name of June Frances Terry.
Oh
I
my
consider her,
goodness.
yeah, she's a cultural icon. We
I
all
love
know
it.
her. Lovely sister, beautiful woman, a woman who for ages, decades, have always wore her hair in a beautiful afro, has really has been seamstress. She's been a designer of for many different arts organizations, and we felt she was deserving of that special recognition. So these two will be of maybe 2 more receiving recognition from the mayor's office. And
Okay.
so that's one. And then we're going to have the film, which is about an hour and 20 minutes. It's the film. It's consists in addition to Dr. William Sorrell and Sister June Terry. We have Dr. Yolanda Silly Ruiz, who is another distinguished scholar from in the community. We have Dr. Tyreen Wright, as well as Dr. Cheryl LaRoche, a distinguished
Mhm.
scholar from
Okay.
Maryland. And also we have the Queen Black Rose, who's also featured. So we have some wonderful folk who are going to appear in it. We also have arts. We infused it with the arts and culture, so it should be a very interesting experience, cinema wise. And it was actually a project that I had completed a few years earlier, but because of COVID, we weren't
Mhm.
able to show it when we wanted to. We had to stop. So this is being reintroduced
Okay,
after the COVID situation. So we're very excited about bringing this film back. And after it will be followed by a panel discussion.
mhm.
So again, it's going to be at the Harlem State Office Building at
Okay,
3.
okay, well, thank
Okay.
you, Louise Dente, Cultural Caravan, and
Mhm.
I'm going to take the opportunity to share the trailer so folks can see what you're talking about, and then we'll come back and, you'll give us any closing statements and tell us again where folks can actually come to view the film and anything else that you'd like to share with the audience.
Mhm.
Very important. And I love the fact that we are celebrating our elders. June Terry is certainly extremely deserving. I mean, I just saw her at a play premiere for the New Federal Theater, and she was as animated as ever. She's just a great person. When we had the Harlem Besame restaurant, she gathered seniors together, and she still does her crafts and art, and she is just amazing. Someone to look towards, in terms of modeling your life of action in the arts. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to do a little share right now, and we are looking forward.
Hair discrimination against African Americans and other individuals has numerous negative impacts.
Well, in Africa, prior to the European coming to enslave people and bring them to the Americas, people had an identity.
Many African Americans have faced discrimination in the workplace due to their natural hair.
The impact of slavery separated families, the separation from husbands and wives, mothers from children.
Policies and practices that target natural hairstyles can result in missed job opportunities or even terminations based on appearance.
What the media seeks to fill those spaces in, the stereotypes, the lies.
Hair discrimination can also impact students, create a hostile learning environment, and hinder academic success.
Well, if slavery tells us that those who control us are the epitome of beauty and intelligence, then you want to be like them.
The Crown Act is a legislative movement aimed at ending hair discrimination based on race and hair texture.
We are embracing our culture more now than before.
The act seeks to ensure that traits historically associated with race are protected from discrimination in schools and workplaces. Hairstyles are more than mere adornments. They are symbols of strength, of resilience, of the unbreakable bond between past, present, and future. But despite the diversity, there is a common thread that binds them all, a celebration of beauty in its purest form. Come with us on this journey, our struggle, our expression, our history and heritage.
Okay, well, thank you, Louise Dante. That's amazing. There've been many documentaries and other projects surrounding our hair, and it's pretty amazing that even in this time, hair is still an issue. It's still an issue. We thought that that was over, in the early 70s, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. But hair and colorism are still an issue. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with one of our warrior sisters in media in the person of Louise Dente. So if you would just, share a little bit. We've seen the clip. You spoke about Black Rose, and I had the honor as a teenager. I grew up in Queens, and I came to Harlem early in the morning to Black Rose's hair studio, and each person's hair that she created an afro for, you know, she also wrote a poem for you.
Wow.
So it's been quite a journey with Black Rose. She was at the beginning of
Yes.
my cultural journey and awareness. So that's all I can say. And
Yes.
she's beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And you shared that you had started the film and then COVID happened. So you're really just doing the real premiere. And I mean, I think it is without any explanation why you did the film, but if you would just share that in your own words and how you feel this film can be impactful. Thank you.
Thank you. So, you know, what encouraged me was that I realized that, you know, after the Civil Rights Act did not cover all of our rights, unfortunately. And the fact that at the time that I was filming, only California and New York had passed the Crown Act. So this is what happened. I finished filming in 2019. California had signed it into law, but they hadn't enacted it. They were planning to enact it in the 2020 of January, whereas New York signed it into law in the fall of 2019, but we enacted it immediately. So we actually enacted the law earlier. But at that time it was just those two states. The others had not. So there was no protection. So now in 2024, there's only 24 states that have fully actually implemented in some respect. There's less than 50. So that means that there are other states throughout the country where a person can lose their job or a child can be kicked out of school because of where their hair, because someone feels their hair is offensive, the way it was back in enslavement, where our people were forced to wear a handkerchief on their head because some people were offended by the way in which their hair looked. So that's why this film is important. It's really to emphasize the history of why this is important. How did this come up? What the history, as well as the need to implement, and the fact that there are people around, you know, in government who are trying to advocate. So it's something that people throughout the country need to get on the bandwagon for. So this is really a continuation of the first film that we did on Age as Black is Beautiful. Now we're trying to ensure that our beauty is respected. So that's what it is. So that's where it was. And if I may talk about day two, just let me.
Yes,
really
please,
quick.
please. Thank you.
So day one is the film, and that's what we're encouraging people to come out to. Day two is the full experience, the full festival. So we start off, doors open at 12:30. We will have a workshop by a sister who's an expert in colorism, Dr. Sarah Webb. I've had Sarah on my show, and talking about what colorism is an ugly remnant of enslavement, where people are mistreat each other based on their skin, their complexion. And she talks about colorism healing from that. So how we as a people need to move forward and really accept ourselves in whatever we come as a people. So it's a really powerful workshop. And then at 5 o'clock, we're going to begin our cultural expression, our cultural workshop, which will celebration, which is several different presentations. We're going to have Atiba Wilson and the B-Fold Quartet.
Great.
He's like a legend around the city.
Absolutely.
I've had him many times, and original natural music and poetry. Then followed by some fashions. We have a little children's fashion show, mini fashion show, coordinated by Sister Mur Nubian and her children and others, as well as then we have the great Grandessa models. who will be, presenting. And that should be a wonderful celebration of the Grandessa models. And then we have following by closing the show out is the Asasaya dance and drum uh,
Wow.
theater. So that is what the program is. We invite people to come out. We encourage them to consider getting tickets early. It's much
Okay.
cheaper at the, before the door. And to take advantage, they can do it through eventbrite.com, Cultural Caravan Productions. They can certainly do it that way, or they can call me at area code 347-804-5810, 347-804-5810 if they'd like to reserve a ticket. But we encourage people to really support this, because in order for us to continue doing the type of work that we do on TV and otherwise, we need community support, and we need our
Absolutely.
community to do that. So we're encouraging people to come out. I know there's a lot going on this weekend, particular coming up with the Juneteenth celebration, but we hope that
Yes.
people can make time to join us either one or both of the days.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. It's been an honor, and it's very important. Our media is important. We matter. This work is not easy. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with Louise Dente of Cultural Caravan. And it is important that the community support and the government support, all agencies, businesses support, sponsor Black media, because without the sponsorship, we're not able to continue to do what I call this essential work, bringing the news and information. And just imagine if a Harlem Network News or a Cultural Caravan, was on like every day, like the news, like New York One is. Imagine the impact on the people. Imagine what that impact is, because what you see is what you know and what you understand and what you can respond to. So for that reason, even in terms of our youth, knowing from whence we came, this issue of colorism, this issue of our culture being celebrated, us celebrating ourselves, and the issue of hair, the fact that there even had to be a Crown Act, for us to celebrate our God-given hair and skin colors, so these are some very, very sensitive topics, and they're topics that still prevail, in terms of our strength, our power, and our self-esteem. So Louise, if you would just give some closing remarks, and we're very happy that you're doing this great work. And we know that it's not easy, but as I say, there's no progress without struggle.
Absolutely. And again, I want to sincerely thank you, Sister Terri, for what you're doing. And that's why just being able to support one another and to do this work is so vital. And so I thank you again for your support and what you're doing. And just going in terms of what we're doing, we're just encouraging people to come out. And, the Harlem State Office Building, named for my great ancestor, Adam Clayton Powell, Jr. And we were happy it's going to be in the community room, 163 West 125th Street. Please bring your ID. As you know, the building requires that you have
Yes.
ID
Yes,
before you
absolutely.
enter. It's on the second floor. We want to
Mhm.
emphasize that because we don't want anyone to have a situation where they can't get in. So that's one of the things. And it's a secure environment, so that's important that people feel safe. And as I said, 2 days of celebrating us. Day one, as I said, with the film festival, I'd say a festival, but the film, very important film as it relates to us, which is called African American History and Heritage. the struggle for
Heritage,
natural
I
and
love it.
cultural expression. Very important, people understand that, and, understanding why this film is important, why we need to show. And please bring your children. We have some very
Mhm.
family-friendly donations that we're asking. We try to keep it very low, so please bring your children out. Sometimes we leave our children home and stuff, but I'm talking about children, maybe preteens or even the early ones. I remember being a
Yeah,
child that my parents brought me out, me and my sisters.
very
So we
important.
saw certain people. We saw the Grandessa models. We saw Malcolm, standing on the soapbox. These things leave impressions in the minds of our children. So we're encouraging our parents to bring their children or grandchildren out, out on that day. Also, day two, as I said, we have the colorism workshop from 1 to 3, as well as later on we have some dynamic performances. We have our fashion show. We have a children's fashion show. We have an adult fashion show, the Grandessa models. We have Atiba Wilson, dynamic Atiba Wilson and his B-Fo quartet. And then last but not least, the Sasaya African American Dance and Drum Company, coming all the way from Queens, New York. So we have a full evening of really some powerful arts and craft. So that's what it's about. And we want to encourage people to come. In terms of vendors, we are accepting a couple, but you got to call me immediately because
Okay.
that window is closing. And sponsorship, we certainly always welcome that. And please call if you have any questions, area code 347-804-5810, 347-804-5810, or you can visit us on Eventbrite, Cultural Caravan activity. Feel free to either or call me. But again, I want to thank you for having us. And
Okay.
we look forward to other opportunities.
This is what it's about, Harlem Network News, and in the spirit of Kwanzaa collective work and responsibility. Harlem Network News, we do a range from the arts to public officials to education. And we want to salute as we come upon the Eid on the 17th, and we come upon Juneteenth on the 19th. And, just to make sure everyone knows that Juneteenth really came about because it was almost 2 years before those in Texas knew that they were free. And a lot of that had to do with there was no internet, the mail systems, and just systemic racism. So 2 years later, they were celebrating their freedom in Texas. And it is of recent that this has become a national holiday. So it is something really for all of us to celebrate, and it's representative of us knowing and embracing our history. We also want to make folks aware that early voting for at least in Harlem here, the Assembly District is coming up on the 15th, and the primary day is on June 25th. So assure that your registrations are in order, you know where your voting is, and we'll be doing more on that. We have had all the candidates on, and we look to, we've had them on separately, but we look to have them on in a forum. So very, very critical because I just say, so goes Harlem, so goes the world. And when we speak of Harlem, we speak collectively of Harlem and the Harlems of the world. So what we do matters, and what happens in the political world is directly impactful to us culturally, to our education, to all of those things. And I would also like to close the show really just giving tribute to one of our recent ancestors in the person of Brother Leroy Bailey, who was an icon in media for many, many years, made his transition, and his homegoing was this past week. So Brother Leroy, we salute you, and we know that you are watching over us and guiding us as we do this vital work. So thank you. I'm Terri Wisdom. You can go to harlemnetworknews.org, reach us at harlemnetworknews@gmail.com. You can make your donations, sponsorship. We have Zelle, Cash App. And if you have stories of interest, please reach out to us at 646-261-5397. We are the voice and drumbeat of Harlem as we prepare for our International African Arts Festival, our Harlem Week. There's a lot coming up this summer, so be present. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And have a blessed and prosperous day and stay strong. Thank you.
Thank you.